So we all know about Notre Dame. It is one of the most storied franchises in college football history and one of the most successful of all time. But over these last few years, I've noticed that Notre Dame has become like the Dallas Cowboys of college football, in which they are the most polarizing team out there possible. They are loved by many and hated by a lot. And over these last few months, Notre Dame missed its chance on the college football playoffs, albeit very controversially, and it caused a storm on social media with people defending the actions of the college football playoff committee, saying Notre Dame should join a conference, this and that, and just the classical Notre Dame hatred right there. And then the ones who are defended Notre Dame saying that it was a highway robbery. Before I get into today's video, to be more in depth, Notre Dame was number 10 going into the final college football playoff ranking, and Alabama took a major loss to Georgia 7-28, while BYU took a major loss to Texas Tech 7-34 in their conference championships, not to mention that Virginia lost to Duke in the ACC championship. What ended up happening was BYU dropped a spot, Alabama for some reason did not drop a spot, the only team who lost on conference championship week and did not move in the ladder whatsoever, despite the fact that they took a bad loss. Miami and Notre Dame, who played in week 1, in which Miami won 27-24, were pushed up against each other, and knowing that Miami and Notre Dame had basically the same kind of season, they left it up to the head-to-head, and Miami ended up jumping into the last playoff spot. Notre Dame missed the playoffs because the other two spots were auto bids by Tulane and James Madison, and Notre Dame, a team that was third in the FPI, the Football Power Index, was left out of the playoffs, and it's caused a major storm, so much to the point where Notre Dame declined to play BYU in their bowl game, and which is the first time that's happened in this kind of manner. Obviously, we've had teams decline bowl games for a multitude of reasons, but this is the first time a team's ever declined a bowl game due to missing the playoffs. So there was a lot of controversy around it. Many Notre Dame fans like that Notre Dame stayed out of the bowl game season, not to give ESPN more money, despite the fact that ESPN clearly screwed them, and I'm one of those who feel that way. And there were many that says, well, Notre Dame should join a conference, Notre Dame should stop playing teams that are clearly easy and then losing to really good teams, which is also extremely valid. So in today's video, we're going to be looking over the future of Notre Dame. Where should Notre Dame go from here? What should be the next course of action? Because this is a different Notre Dame team from the Brian Kelly era. This is the Marcus Freeman era, and it's a lot tougher, it's a lot more skilled than it was before. So I'm going to be going through the future of Notre Dame, and most of it's going to be based off scheduling and what they should do going forward. And with that, I want to welcome you to season 4 of this channel. I have been doing this for 3 years. This is going to be the 4th year, and I'm very thankful for what's happened in season 2, season 3, even in season 1 if you were here in the beginning. We've been seeing the channel grow ever so slowly, passing 200 subscribers, getting over 250,000 views, and I'm just very thankful, and I think that we can do better, and we're gonna have a great year. Obviously, we're gonna be starting off the off season with many stories and looking over some other things, not just simply football, but we're also gonna look over the FIFA World Cup when that comes around. Then we'll have the draft, or maybe we'll have the FIFA video before the draft, who knows, but we're gonna have the draft, then move into the fantasy football part of the schedule for this season, and then move into the actual NFL and college football season. So welcome to episode 1, and I hope you guys are excited. This is about my favorite college football team, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. As a quick review for Notre Dame's season, they went 10-2. They lost their first 2 games by a combined 4 points to Miami and Texas A&M, who both went to the college football playoffs. And then the best team that Notre Dame ended up beating after that was USC by 10 points. A lot of people look at that and say Notre Dame did not play up to what they are capable of, which I agree. Notre Dame should have came out the gates a lot stronger. I don't know why they didn't, but I did see some major progression. Obviously, Jeremiah Love had an incredible year. CJ Carr is going to be a special quarterback in the future, and I have to wait until next season to see more Notre Dame football. So missing the playoffs was very agonizing for me, obviously, and looking into it, I had to look at the 2 biggest arguments that Notre Dame haters tend to say to Notre Dame fans. So we're going to address the first one right now, and that is Notre Dame should join a conference and they should stop being independent. Now, the reason why most people say this is because Notre Dame doesn't get to play in a conference championship game, which means they don't have to suffer the risk of potentially losing and getting knocked out of the playoffs like other teams like Alabama or BYU. So I understand from that perspective. And if Notre Dame was to join a conference, the obvious choice would be the ACC because they are in the ACC in other sports, and we have a deal where we play 6 to 7 ACC teams a year. So it makes sense to join the conference, and ultimately, if Notre Dame did join the conference, it would make a lot of sense as they would be the top dogs in the conference outside of Miami. Seeing Notre Dame and Miami potentially in the ACC championship game nearly every single year would be extremely interesting and would show a lot of potential for who could be the future of the college football playoff championship, where it could go. And if Notre Dame joined the ACC, that would be the most likely case. I know Notre Dame. I've been a fan for nearly my entire life. The chance of them joining a conference in the near future is lower than most people think, because Notre Dame historically is an independent team in the football side of things, and it just makes a lot of sense. Also, it means Notre Dame has to play better. 12-0, 11-1, maybe 10-2. But that's where they don't have a lot of leeway for failure, which means that we have a higher standard to play, and that is a very good thing. So if Notre Dame does join a conference, it would be the ACC, but I just don't see that happening. So to all the haters out there, let's just be honest, Notre Dame's probably not going to join a conference. So what should Notre Dame do as an independent team? Well, first things first, I think Notre Dame needs to leave the ACC, or at least the deal with the ACC, because the ACC is not getting better. It's a conference where only Miami is the true respectable team, as they did make it to the championship game and lost to Indiana, which it was a really good game. So if you're a Miami fan watching this, congratulations on your year. But you are the only team in the ACC that's worth anything. Really, Clemson, they're not a team that I fear anymore. I mean, the Dabo Swinney prime era is probably gone. Florida State had promise, didn't work out so hot. Virginia was the second best team by ranking, and they lost to a 7-5 Duke team in the conference championship. If you ask me, the ACC is in a bad spot right now. As a matter of fact, it's really hard to tell who's the worst of the Power Four, them or the Big 12. And the Big 12 nearly had two teams. If BYU won, there would have been two teams, and there would have been 0 ACC teams. So let that one sink in. I believe that Notre Dame, for the sake of argument, if you want to get better, I think that you need to cut your deal with the ACC. There's only one team that Notre Dame can play in that conference that would mean anything to anybody judging Notre Dame, and that is Miami. I would leave that conference and look to do business elsewhere. And another thing, playing the Notre Dame Miami game for nearly 48 hours straight on the ACC network and not really advertising your ACC championship game. Yeah, Notre Dame has a lot of reason to be upset with the ACC, and it's mostly those reasons plus the fact that the conference is just not that good anymore that we should be looking for a new partner to deal with. So the second thing that haters tend to say is that Notre Dame schedules easy opponents. And to be fair, Notre Dame's 9 historic rivals, USC, Michigan, Michigan State, Purdue, Navy, Miami, Stanford, Pitt, and Boston College, only 3 of those teams are true competitors: USC, Michigan, and Miami. All the rest, Notre Dame tends to go through Navy very easily because Navy is a smaller school, obviously. Boston College does not have the same pedigree it did in the early 2000s, and same thing with Stanford in the early 2010s. Those teams are not that strong anymore. Pittsburgh's up and down, but they're generally not on Notre Dame's level. Michigan State has had a couple of years of being towards the bottom of that tier, and Purdue is just kind of a walking stick of the Big Ten. Notre Dame's historic rivals are not that competitive. So if you want Notre Dame to kind of stick more to its rivalries, well, you're not going to get a lot of competition there. Part of the reason why I talk about Notre Dame leaving the ACC is because I actually fully agree with the haters when they say that Notre Dame schedules easy opponents. As a matter of fact, it irks me a lot. And looking over Notre Dame's schedule this year, there's 2 teams that trouble me, that concern me whatsoever, and that is BYU and Miami. All the rest, I believe Notre Dame is going to win. Maybe struggle with some. I really see them going 10-2 at worst, 12-0 at best. And that's just the issue with Notre Dame. They are better than that. This is not the same Brian Kelly team, which was curb stomping all the bad teams and getting curb stomped by all the good teams. Notre Dame nowadays can curb stomp a lot of the bad teams and even compete very well with the bigger teams. We saw that in 2024 getting to the national championship game. They are worthy of doing so. So they have to find a way to schedule better. So what would I do if I were Notre Dame looking into the future? Well, first things first, I would actually choose the Big Ten to do business with. And I would like to have a contract with them. 6 games, to 7 games against Big Ten opponents a year, with 3 out of 4 of them being against the top dogs. So we're talking Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State, Michigan, Indiana, USC, all those big time schools that you know are going to compete for the playoffs or even a high bowl game. And then of course the other 3 are going to be against lower tier opponents. So we're talking Rutgers, Northwestern, Purdue, all those other teams. But you know that the Big Ten has a huge pedigree. They've won the last 3 national championships. I said in my shorts that they are better than the SEC. The SEC hasn't seen a national champion since 2022, nor a team go to the national championship since 22, Georgia. Last 3, Michigan, Ohio State, Indiana. So I would rather join the Big Ten if we're talking about higher competition, and I just believe the SEC, there's only one team that really concerns me there to the high degree, and that's Georgia on a consistent level. Obviously, the SEC has a lot of great teams. Tennessee can be great at times. Texas, Oklahoma, A&M, they can get a lot better. Notice I didn't say Alabama because I believe Alabama are frauds. There's a reason I say that. They don't have Nick Saban anymore. That mentality that Alabama used to have does no longer exist. And I saw it against Georgia. I saw it against Indiana. Nick Saban, even if his team was not that good, would have never gotten killed like that. They would have always had competitive games. And that clearly did not happen in those 2 games. So I'm just saying, I'm not considering Alabama as a super threat anymore. Not until they get that mentality back. So that's why I choose the Big Ten. It just makes a lot of sense for Notre Dame geographically. We're in South Bend, Indiana. You have 2 teams from Indiana who are in the Big Ten currently with Purdue and Indiana, who are the former national champions. So I believe that it makes sense for them to have matchups there, at least more often. They also have 4 of their historic rivals, USC, Michigan, Michigan State, and Purdue. It just makes sense. They are the better conference than the ACC. It would be better for Notre Dame to play more teams from the Big Ten because it would be higher competition, which is higher strength of schedule, which is a big key factor for the College Football Playoff Committee. So that's basically the difference. If you join a conference, join the ACC so you can dominate the conference. If you are not going to join the ACC or join a conference at all, make a deal with the Big Ten. And with that out of the way, this is how I want Notre Dame to start scheduling their opponents from here on out. So first of all, we're going to look at Notre Dame's rivals and who they should play every single year. Of course, the Big Ten has 4 of them: Purdue, Michigan, USC, Michigan State. I believe that Notre Dame should rekindle all those rivalries and play them consistently, along with adding Stanford, who they share with USC. In the middle of the year, one of those 2 teams come to South Bend, and at the end of the year, Notre Dame goes to California to play one of those 2 teams. So you obviously keep Stanford there and Navy because it is tradition. So those are 6 spots. Obviously, we have 6 left. Now, if you play 6 teams in the Big Ten a year, that means there's 2 teams left. Or if you play 3, or if you play 7, then you put 3 Big Ten teams along with 1 ACC team, 1 Big 12 team, and 1 SEC team. You want to have a full-on reason to compete. You don't want to put a lot of smaller teams, non-Power 4 conference schools up there. I know a lot of conferences love to put a lot at the beginning of the year. I think Notre Dame should try to fill its schedule with comparable competition, teams that are going to push Notre Dame to the limit, and I want to see more than just 2 teams. I would like Notre Dame to play 4 to 5 big-time matchups, and with going to the Big Ten, that would be a big deal. And if you shuffle around with the Big 12, the SEC, and the ACC, at least one of those matchups would be big time. I can have a few places I would go with this. As a matter of fact, there's 6 teams I would like Notre Dame to at least try to play very consistently and very often. The first is Ohio State. Now, Notre Dame's played Ohio State a lot in these last few years. We're 0-3 against them in Columbus, in South Bend, in the national championship. But it is better for Notre Dame to play Ohio State and get acquainted with that kind of competition. So that's why I have them playing the Buckeyes every single year. Or at least very often, I would like to see them play. Another Big Ten team I would suggest that they should play nearly all the time is Penn State. But Penn State's going to get better. They're not going to have the same year that they did this year. And obviously, the last time we played Penn State was in the semifinals in 2024, and that victory took us straight to Ohio State. And I would just love to go play in University Park every once in a while. That would be an historical matchup, and a lot of people would love to watch it. And then the other team I want Notre Dame to play consistently, as a matter of fact, I would want Notre Dame to host a rivalry with, is Indiana. Makes sense. It's in the state of Indiana. Both teams are at the top of their game with 2 big-time head coaches. Notre Dame, it's Marcus Freeman. For Indiana, it's Kurt Cignetti. I believe that would be a primetime matchup. I want to make a lot of money for college football. I don't know why they don't try to encourage this kind of matchup. It's in the state of Indiana, so it's obviously pride rule, and it just that's huge playoff implications for a team like Indiana, who I don't believe is going anywhere anytime soon. They're always going to be in the mix because they have the coaching to back it up. That's a team I want to see Notre Dame play as often as possible. A lot of people, especially Miami fans, would say, well, if Notre Dame's going to stop playing the ACC, you're basically running from us. No, I believe that Notre Dame should continue to play Miami as consistently as it should, because again, this is one of Notre Dame's historic rivals. We've had this rivalry from the 80s and the 90s, and obviously it means something today because it had a playoff implication. So why not continue to play this team almost consistently? Whether you're in a deal with the ACC or not, you should have Miami on your schedule as much as possible. It just makes the most sense. Another team I think Notre Dame should Another team I believe that Notre Dame should try to play very often is Georgia. We played Georgia a couple times over these last 10 years. They're 2-1 against us. I believe that playing Georgia can really test whether you are a playoff contender or not. It's a team that's constantly up there. They've been in the last 2 playoffs. They're the last SEC team to win a championship. As a matter of fact, they were back-to-back in 21 and 22. I don't see why you can't play Georgia very often, especially if you take my scheduling and play an SEC team. I think Georgia should be a team that's always in the mix. And then the last team I think that Notre Dame should attempt to play as often as humanly possible is BYU. It makes sense. These are 2 similar kind of schools. One's Catholic, the other's Mormon. One is dominant in the East against a majority of their opponents, and BYU is conquering a lot of the Big 12 and many of the teams out west. Even though they have not made it to the playoffs yet, you can clearly tell this is a team that is eventually going to make it with their head coach. So Notre Dame versus BYU, we're going to see it for the next 2 years. If it goes very well, we should play them as often as humanly possible. It just makes sense. These 2 teams, I've seen that this matchup a lot, so why not? Also a former independent team as well, so playing BYU would help majorly, especially if you're trying to have a good strength of schedule. I fully agree with a lot of people that say that Notre Dame schedules easily. They should schedule harder teams and should play them a little more often. They have the skill set, the recruiting, the coaching to do so. This isn't your Brian Kelly Notre Dame team. This is Marcus Freeman's team. He's a lot better of a coach than we had with Brian Kelly. Even though he got us to the big game one time, he's gotten us to the playoffs a couple times. There's just not that mentality you see with any other team outside of Marcus Freeman's Notre Dame. And that's why I want that. I want to see Notre Dame have better opponents. They should desire to have that. None of these cakewalk teams that we can easily scroll through, and then every once in a while we get that big team and we cannot compete with them. I'd rather compete with them more often and eventually find a way to beat them consistently than to do this all the time. And I want to see Notre Dame eventually win the national championship, and I feel like this is one of the best routes Notre Dame can take in order to become a champion. That will do it for today's episode. I thank you guys so much for watching. This is the first episode and a great introduction to this 4th season of this channel. I thank you guys so much for being patient with me since the Super Bowl episode. I'm going to be here for the entire time. Hopefully, obviously, I never know what my schedule is going to look like in a couple of weeks or a couple of months, but I plan to post every Saturday at 12 p.m. That's the best time for me to do it. If there's ever a change, I'll let you guys know. Thank you guys so much for watching today's episode. And if you like this episode, please leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe if you haven't already. And go follow me on all my social medias. I'm going to plan to post there more often. And yeah, that'll do it for today's episode. If you have any comments about this episode, if you have anything you want to say, whether you're a fan of Notre Dame or a hater of Notre Dame, you guys are all welcome to comment. And if I get around to it, I'll be sure to reply. I hope you guys interact with me there and in the shorts. So I hope you guys have a great day. Take care, and I will see you all in the next one. Peace out.